If I asked you what the most important skill in RuneScape is, you'd probably say something like strength, farming, or slayer, I don't know. But I'd have to disagree with you. There is one skill that is so integral to the story of RuneScape that if it didn't exist, you probably wouldn't either. In this video, we'll be discussing the art of runecrafting, how it was discovered, and the role it played in Gilinor's development. It all started sometime during the Second Age, before the God Wars, in the northern region known as the Fremennik province. According to an in-game book, the Moon Clan Manual, there once existed a Fremennik hero that was known as V. During an adventure through the unexplored Lunar Isles, V happened across an underground cavern. Within this cavern, he stumbled upon one of Gilinor's most infamous ancient artifacts, the Stone of Jas. This is the first documentation of the stone's presence on Gilinor, leaving many questions as to how or why it got there. But alas, none of that mattered the moment V made his discovery. Curious, he approached the artifact and lifted his hands up to it. Upon making contact with the stone, V gained an immense amount of power, becoming the first lunar mage. With this power, he would ascend to a level that some people might consider godhood. However, the Fremennik people preferred to respect him as a hero rather than worship him as a god. He fought hard for those Fremennik people over the years, warding off basilisk threats and sealing the Yorgamon on the Island of Stone. But those actions would pale in comparison to the true legacy V left behind. You see, shortly after V made contact with the stone, it was removed from the cavern. The Moon Clan Manual states that the stone was taken away by those that walk a higher astral plane. When V returned to the cave where he had first discovered the stone, he noticed something interesting. The magical presence of the artifact had transformed the walls of the cave, leaving behind rocks that could be imbued with the essence of the universe. V found that he could focus his sheer thoughts upon the stones and temporarily transform them into elemental and catalytic tools. In this moment, V discovered runecrafting. However, at the time, this was actually not that impressive, as many of the Fremennik already knew small parlor tricks, such as making fire within their hands. V was aware of this, but knew that if he could enact a more permanent change upon the stones, he would be able to truly alter history. Sharing this knowledge with his brothers and sisters, V gathered supporters for an excursion. He planned to set out with a team and travel across the world, searching for locations of raw, potent energy that could be used to create runes. And they did exactly that, setting out and constructing almost all of the runic altars across Gilinor and crafting immense amounts of runes to bring back home. Around that time though, the morality of runecrafting became a hot topic of debate among the Fremennik people. Most of the population believed that V had discovered something he wasn't supposed to, that creating these runes was a power meant only for the gods, not mortals. V, among others, believed runecrafting was a blessing that they should take full advantage of. This rift in the population would result in the Fremennik banning runecrafting and exiling all that wished to partake in it. Unfortunately for them, the exiled would include V, who, despite this, would maintain his respect as a Fremennik hero. Those that joined V settled on Lunar Isle and became known as the Moon Clan. Centuries would pass with the islanders secluded. The God Wars would rage on, civilizations would rise and fall, and the story of V would fade into myth or urban legend. During this time, the Moon Clan became such great wielders of magic that they surpassed the need for runes entirely, and slowly forgot about the existence of their runic altars. For 6,000 years or so, the knowledge of runecrafting remained completely unknown to those outside of the Moon Clan. This all changed when, late into the Fourth Age, a group of human adventurers were exploring the harsh, icy north, where the Zerosian Empire once stood. These adventurers discovered another cave with properties similar to the one that V set foot in many millennia ago. Although they had no idea, they had found another former resting place of the Stone of Jas. They mined the essence from the wall and brought it back to Mistalin, where, after a lot of experimentation, they rediscovered the art of runecrafting. This rediscovery would usher in a new way of life. It allowed the human race to begin mass production of runes, which they used to establish themselves as the dominant force of Gilinor. The power of runecrafting was so impactful that it marked the end of the Fourth Age and the beginning of the Fifth, the Age of Man. As influence from the south expanded, the Fremennik people caught wind that humans had begun crafting and using runes. This angered a warlord known as Gunnar, who decided to muster up an army of similarly minded Fremennik to put an end to the blasphemy. Setting out on the same path V had once traveled, these barbarians began a 20-year-long campaign known as the Runecrafting Crusades. During the Crusades, they would aim to destroy all of Gilinor's runic altars. The Gunnites were savage in combat. They attacked magic-using kingdoms all over Kandarin, Asgarnia, and Mistalin. One of the group's more notable casualties were the Imkando dwarves. Although the dwarves didn't even craft their own runes, their remedial use of the superheat spell was enough to attract the attention of Gunnar's army. In a mostly one-sided battle, the barbarians wiped out Camdozil and almost its entire population. However, for what the barbarians had in strength, they lacked in knowledge. Along their journey, the army thought they were successfully destroying each runic altar. Turns out, due to their ignorance of magic, they didn't realize they were only destroying the entrances to these altars, not the altars themselves. It's possible that the Gunnites would have never even been able to access these altars, as they exist in a sort of different plane, but nonetheless, their crusade was truly fruitless thanks to this. The barbarians would meet their match after stepping too far into the Feldip Hills. In the area, scholars had recently discovered the Wrath Altar. Shortly after its discovery, the Fremenic army came and attempted to destroy the altar, the same as they had the others. This alerted a nearby group of nomads to the barbarian threat, who then formed a group known as the Sect of Uld. The sect carefully studied the power of these new Wrath runes, creating surge spells. The advanced spells were finally capable of overwhelming the Gunnites in battle. Armed with their new power, the sect destroyed the southern barbarian army and sent its forces into a retreat. They founded the Myths Guild and vowed to protect the realm's stories and secrets. The remainder of Gunnar's army ended up settling near Varrock, forming Barbarian Village, where they would try to regain their strength, vowing to one day continue their crusade. With the barbarian threat subdued, it was truly time for runecrafting to enter its golden era. Unfortunately, there was still one obstacle to overcome. Back then, in order to gather rune essence, one would have to travel through the harsh conditions of the wilderness and icy north just to reach the mine. This was inefficient at best and deadly at worst. During these early years of runecrafting, the Order of Wizards was formed by Saradomin-worshipping mages. They invited creatures of all creeds, race, and religion to their newly constructed Wizards Tower, which served as a hub for magical knowledge. Working together, these wizards were able to create teleportation magic. This new form of magic would take advantage of the Abyss, a plane between planes. Among others, one incantation was created that could teleport people directly to the Rune Essence Mine. This was the final advancement humans needed to fully optimize their runecrafting abilities. Now, the story of runecrafting could have ended here, but alas, one more development is necessary to catch us up to the modern day. In the year 70, a great fire burnt down the Wizard's Tower, destroying years of research and spells. Among the spells lost was the teleportation to the Rune Essence Mine, a huge setback for runecrafting. What caused this fire depends on who you ask. Saradomin wizards claimed it was Zamorak mages trying to steal research, while the Zamorak mages claimed they had nothing to do with it and it was likely the result of a ritual gone wrong by part of the Saradominists. Nonetheless, Zamorak followers were banned from the Order of Wizards. As a result, the Zamorak mages went on to form their own coalition, known as the ZMI, or Zamorakian Magical Institute. This group found their own way to the runic altars by creating rifts within the Abyss itself. It should be briefly mentioned here that the Abyss is a strange dimension, akin to a tesseract, and where the mages built their rifts is actually inside of the body of an ancient demon king named Hostilius. More on that another time. The ZMI's abyssal rifts were extremely effective for runecrafting, but were also very unsafe. Conversely, the Zamorakians also took control of the Orania altar. Being one of V's most interesting creations, this altar was capable of crafting many types of runes. However, the crafter could not control exactly what they would receive. This method of runecrafting proved to be much less effective, but also much safer for the mages. Although they were doing alright for themselves, the ZMI remained bitter towards the Order of Wizards and maintained their innocence in the burning of the tower. The Wizard's Tower was eventually reconstructed, however, the incantation used for rune essence teleportation was never recovered. For almost 100 years, wizards continued making the difficult trek through the wilderness to acquire their essence, until finally, in modern day, an adventurer approached the Wizard's Tower. In a quest dubbed Rune Mysteries, the adventurer helped the Archmage of the Wizard's Tower out by delivering some research notes to his colleague in Varrock. The colleague, Aubrey, was ecstatic upon receiving the package. Combining the research with some of his own personal notes, he exclaimed, "We finally have it." Upon returning to the Archmage, the adventurer hears those incredible words spoken for the first time in modern day.
Sovetior Destin Malenko!
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why runecrafting is the most important skill in old school RuneScape. Without V's discovery, we never would have gotten a true era of human dominance. Imagine the game, but instead of massive cities, all we had were janky settlements, and instead of surge spells, all we had were Fremenic parlor tricks. Actually, that might be kind of cool, Jagex. Take notes. But I'm just saying, it wouldn't be the same. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like this type of content, be sure to check out my channel for lots more. I keep studying these in-game books, and you guys take it easy. Alright, I'm sorry. I don't know why I did that.